So the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to go through everything that that you need to be able to get a car from like GTA 5 mods, and then package it up and create it for 5M, including going through and modifying everything. So I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, actually, and then you guys can take it slow at your own pace after this becomes a video here. I'm also going to show you the way that I'm starting to do it now for the server, because there's a limited amount of resources that we can actually. It's actually not limited. I mean, it is. There is a limit, but if I say we can hold, we can do like 20,000 resources. Yeah, but the server can't. So with all the players connecting from around the world, like we are, Sentinel is national or multinational, is worldwide. Got people from all kinds of countries: Australia, the UK, America, Canada, everywhere across the earth. So everybody has different latency issues, and a lot of that has to do with, for example, if you're down in the city, I've seen this a few times, and the terrain isn't rendering correctly for you. The what do you call it? The buildings and so forth. That doesn't necessarily mean just because you have the fastest internet on the planet, that doesn't mean that you can't get this, because it has to do with the pathway that your ISP sends you to get to our server once it gets out in the cloud and comes back, as well as other subscribers in your network. If you're, hey, what's up, man? Killer B. So if you are, for example, I think you're the ones that had that problem as well, B, where weren't rendering out correctly some of the city stuff. And as I said, it has to do with a lot of different factors. I'm a network engineer, so I understand the factors, and oftentimes I can't fix it because I just route packets, right? I don't control the applications and how they utilize those packets. What developers do. And so if your router and how you're connected to your router and the other subscribers within your network at home, and then in your town, because you could have, if you're playing at 6 p.m., for example, there's a lot of other people using the internet for Netflix or a lot of other things, and most likely you're sharing that bandwidth with everybody else in your town, uh, via the carrier offices, the COs, where all that data gets routed and then it goes into their network. So uh, it rendered, but it would lose track of what's going on the server. But yeah. So this is just a general statement. There's a lot of people that have, uh, when you, I'm reading messages here in the background as well.
There goes the neighborhood.
Nate, thanks for the follow. This is Dev Stream. I do baseball game. I'll be doing a baseball game on Tuesday night, and then I do. That's pretty much all I've been streaming lately. I tend to do more YouTube videos, so I have a YouTube channel pop up in here if you guys are interested in seeing any RP stuff. Uh, as far as the network, there's so many fundamental variables that it's hard to track down any issues. However, when you're doing cars and map mods and all these other things that we're doing, everything takes into account on the lag of the processing of the server. We run a virtual server, by the way. So that means our server is one virtual kind of container within many that are in this piece of hardware. So it's a big piece of hardware. It has lots of processors and RAM, but it's sharing amongst all these other ones that are doing things. And so the hardware also takes into account all the processing that it has to do for not only ours, but all the others on it. I have no idea how many others are on it because we can't see that. But the host that we have actually monitors it quite well. So NFO servers or nuclear fallout is who we go with currently. And I've used them for 2 decades now. So there are many, many considerations in just what you put on a server. So when we get to like clothing, we have to look at how big the graphics are in that, because it has to send to every person that is in the area of that, has to send it to them. And that's why you may see at the bottom sometimes it says like it's loading or caching something. That's from somebody else having it, or the server recognizes that you don't actually have it cached and it's popping up somewhere. So you need to be able to see it. So it has to give it to you to see it. So when it comes to vehicles specifically in this tutorial or this or whatever we're doing here, uh, what we don't have any control over how many polygons, for example, the model is, right? Unless the model's unlocked and you have a 3D editing software in order to modify that, but you risk messing it up. So the only thing we can really do is take any liveries that it has and reduce those to a smaller version. Instead of a 4K image, we put it down at a 2K or 1080p type of image. I'm not going to cover that in this one. I could show you where it's at, but I'm not going to actually cover making liveries. If you guys want to learn that, we can do another one of these. It's really just a Photoshop kind of thing, or a paint.net. For those of you that are following along, I did in the announcements put a link to the package that I'm going to use.
Well, there goes the neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood. Kara Productions, welcome. So we have this package here. This is Dev Training Package. It's in my Google Drive for you guys in SRP. I put a link in the announcements. And what that has is a folder here that I got some cars from GTA 5 mods, because that's where everybody always goes. And they're like, hey, can you put this in? Can you put that in? Can you put this in? I'm going to show you what's involved in putting a simple car from GTA 5 mods in right now. I made this car name or pack.zip. That is, here's the actual extracted folder. That is what we'll call the car or the package of cars that we're going to put into it. And then we're going to go in and we're going to modify all the text files and stuff. So I have a resource Lua. I've actually updated in my other stuff to the FX manifest, which is currently supported by 5M or FX server. 5M is the client, by the way. FX server is what we are doing the server with. 5M is how you connect to FX servers. So I will constantly say both 5M, FX server, but so you understand, if you ever set one up, you can set one up at your house on your own computer, but it's going to be called FX server. And FX manifest is what it uses now. Resource Lua is an older version of it. It's actually __ Resource Lua. That's how it reads where the data files are located and loads them into the game. So the tools that you're going to need in order to do any of these things, you're going to have OpenIV, which is this right here. Right now, I'm remoted into another server that I have here, another computer. I call it a server. It's where I do testing and dev, and I do not have Grand Theft Auto 5 installed on this computer. So I tricked this Open4 on this server. I put the executable in a directory, and I said that's where it's at. So I actually don't have GTA installed on this one, but it does look for it in order to install it. So if you are doing this on your computer that have the GTA 5 installed, it's no problem. But so Open4 is how we're going to manipulate the models themselves. And then Notepad++ is how we're going to change out the text files that we need to do. I included the latest version of Notepad++ 64-bit in there. Paint.net for if you do liveries, unless you have access to Photoshop or something like that that does layers. You want something that does layers. It just makes things a lot easier instead of making everything in one image. You can do layers and then combine them when you're done. That way you can do your own liveries if you like. And of course, WinRAR, because some of the vehicles are RAR'd instead of zip. So 7-zip or WinRAR, anything that will extract RAR files is what you're going to need. But that's a trial version, which is free forever. It just gives you that annoying pop-up every time you use it. So in the cars directory, I have 4 different cars here, and the reason I picked these cars are going to become apparent in a minute. Well, I downloaded a whole bunch, and I looked for very specifics on what I want to show you today, and we'll go over that in a minute. And so where I got these was actually GTA 5 mods, where you guys usually look. You notice I just start Googling things if I don't know, but vehicles, and then you could find all these vehicles. Here's what we're going to cover, though, is if you send me 1, 2, 3, 4 individual ones, if you guys decide, hey, I want to make this for the community, if you send me 4 individual files, that's what we're trying not to do. We want them in a package. So 4 cars in a package is okay, but I will probably combine them into even a larger one with more cars so we have less resources running. I'm going to cover how I do the new way. That's going to be on the dev server and soon to be production as soon as towards the end of this, right before I have any questions. If you guys have any questions, please write them down while I'm covering this, and I'll be happy to answer them. I'm sitting in the beta chat right now on Sentinel Roleplay Discord. You can go in there at any time. I am currently deafened in there, but I will turn it on right after I'm done here. If you guys have any questions, you can ask me in there. That typing them, or if you want to type them, that's fine as well. And I won't answer them till the end, though. So we talked about the software and where to get cars. You basically just click on download easy stuff. Okay, so we're not going to cover any more of that. So I have Open 4 here ready. I'm going to need. What's up, TC Roberts? We're going to actually build a car pack right now. The simple way, the way that we need to be able to manipulate it in a minute. So I'm going to open the first one here. It's a RAR file. And here's what we get. When we look in the Honda Accord, it's a Honda Accord Touring V6 sedan. And we have 3 files, right? So you can actually extract 2 or whatever. I try to stay organized. So I'll take, this is a 17. I know it's a Honda because I have one. So 17 Accord. And then I'll just take these and dump them in here. Okay. I'll leave this right here. Now, in order to be able to see any of these, like what they actually look like, over here in Open 4, there's a couple things we're going to use it for. We don't need to actually manipulate our GTA cars at all. I wouldn't do it. If you do, it has the ability to do a mods folder. For those of you who've done LSPDFR, that's how you do that. So I'm just going to I'm going to open the folder where I'm working right now. And I'm going to open folder here, and I'm on the desktop. On my desktop. Here's the ones that I'm working. I'll show you in a minute how I do the new stuff. But, and we're in dev training right here. So I'm just going to open that. So if I look here in cars, the 17 Accord that I just did, you have 3 files in this particular model. You have the YFT, which is your 3D model, and then your YFT that's an underscore high after the name of the model. That's your high resolution version. So when you're up close, that's the one it's going to show. And then you have your YTD, which is all the pieces and parts that make up the different textures of the vehicle. And of course, we have a README file, which we'll look at in a minute, because that's going to have some other information we're going to need in order to spawn this car. So if I open this one, I usually rename these too, by the way, because I need to know what it is instead of just this Astro Rope name or whatever it says. So this is the 3D car I was seeing Open 4. And okay, so it's all there. There's no parts falling off right now, because if they're off here in this view, when you spawn them in, they'll be exactly the same thing. So you don't want that. The high version, again, it's the same thing. It's just for when you're up close, so we don't need to look at that at all. And then we have the YTDs. This, if it has any liveries, this is where they're going to be, and the livery is very specific for the name. The 3D model itself actually has the livery on it. So it would be listed here, and then you can add more liveries later as long as it has a livery. This one does not have a livery. This is only going to spawn with the standard colors, and I can show you how to change those as well. the way you want it to spawn. So this one here is actually all the parts. This is a 2K model, so that's good. It's 248 by 248 DTX5. So this is the steering wheel and all the internal stuff. So that's it. That's all there is to this car on the 3D side. Now, if we open the README, this has something very important in it, and that is going to be, this has the handling line if we want to use that handling line. This says this replaces the Astrope in the GTA 5 game. So if you want to get the original, the vehicle meta file, you need to go to x64e RPF in your GTA 5 directory, levels GTA 5, vehicles RPF. You'd have to open it with OpenIV, and you have to copy all that stuff out. Copy this vehicle in it, and we're going to get to the vehicles meta in a minute. But so you'd have to copy that out and put it into here in that one file that I created, which is this one right here. Oh, wait, I need to extract this. I haven't done that yet. So let's put that in training. So right here is the folder that I made. Again, you can use Resource Lua. What's up, Corvette Stingray? I'm going to go in the data folder, and then the vehicle meta is what you would need to copy. Now, this has nothing in it right now. This just says the model name, the texture name, handling ID, and so forth. Then has all this information here. This is for one vehicle. I'm going to modify this actually too. These LODs, this is your level of detail. That it should be like 150. I have better values that I'm going to put into it. That's about how the distances that you can see certain things in. So we're not going to worry about that now. So this car, it didn't come with a vehicle's meta or a car variations, which is no big deal because we could go into the car variations and we can, so this is how many, this is for liveries. So the model name would be the name of the model. I'll cover that 1 second. And this is the liveries that it could possibly contain. And so if for item, you have, that's like item, that's livery number 1. That would be livery number 2. And then livery number 3 and so forth. So livery number 1 right here, you have the model name. It has to have this XML information on top or it won't do anything. This tells us the colors that the car is going to spawn in. If you have a livery that's basically a transparent, it just has like logos. Let's say you're making a tow vehicle, a cop car, right? You have badges and stuff all over the place. I like to make those, unless you're trying to always keep the car the same color, I put those as transparent. That way you can change the color of the vehicle. And that is done initially by these codes here. And 134, I believe, is white. And we'll look up that right now. So we have, find all this stuff on the web. You just got to Google it. So Rockstar's color schemes are right here. And if we look at 134, it's pure white. And so that's their color scheme. So 134 is pure white right here. So what this means in this case of this model, it's an older model. They only have 4 settings for colors. The top one is primary, or your primary color. The second line is your secondary color. Your third line, I think it's pearlescence if it has one. 0 means nothing, right? And then your fourth one is the stock rim color. So 0 just, it leaves it what it was. Otherwise, it's like 127, or it's like a metallic. Default 156, default alloy color. So if I want it to be alloy rims, I just put 156, and it's just like a default alloy. There's newer cars that have 6 of these, and those are pertaining to more. And again, I have more information on the car variations right here again in GTA 5 mods. So it says primary, secondary, pearlescent. Then you have a wheel color and then extra colors for like interiors and dials. That's what the two extra ones would be those right there. And that's only on the newer cars. So this stuff can get complicated, but it's really not, as long as you understand when you read these things what they do. At the bottom of car variations, that's where you're going to have your plate probabilities. Right now, this is not spawning with any plates because I don't have it say like standard white 100%. Because I need to do a little work to this package that I made to bring it up to the standard that I have now. And then your light settings, that is going to be the headlights, taillights, and so forth. I just have them set to 1. If you have let's say you have a pickup truck with rooftop lighting and all that, somebody's actually created all those. They would put it in the 3D model. You would actually have a car coals that would have a custom number in there. So it'd be like 239672 or something, like whatever they made. So it would have, that's where you'd point to your car coals. The siren settings, the sirens are actually lights on police cars and EMS vehicles. So they're called sirens. The AI see the lights as sirens. So if you have a police car or some sort of EMS vehicle, then the car coals would match this value here for that specific model because somebody's actually done the lighting pattern and all that, and that's in car coals. If you have any conflicts anywhere in the server, so if you say for example, you have a siren that your value is 1199. Somebody made a vehicle, and in their car coals they have siren settings 1199. If there's another vehicle anywhere on the server that has car coals 1199 and it's turned on, it's going to have a conflict. Your lights are not going to be where they should, and they're not going to be flashing how they are supposed to be. They'll be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So then you got to go and find the other one and change it both here and in the car coals. So in this case, we have 8 liveries, I believe, on this one, and that's indicated by the true false statements. So item number 1, if I spawn the first livery, which would be livery 1, then it would say true, and then all these others says, no, I don't want to spawn those liveries when I spawn this one. Or livery 2, well, I don't want to spawn the first one now. Now I want to spawn the livery that is number 2. I'll show you that a little bit more in detail when we find a different vehicle. I can grab one that I already have to show you multiple liveries and how that would work. And 3 and 4 and so forth. So I created this, and again, I left stuff out, but I go through everything and fix it all. Model name has to be whatever you have in whatever you're creating as a package right here. So these, I would not use this Astrope. I would actually change that to 17 Accord, but they all have to be the same. So yeah, the dot's still there. Okay. I would go here. You have to change all these. And this one that's high, make sure you don't take that out. There's also some that are plus high. That's another high definition YFT. And then you can have other parts and stuff, I guess. I've seen some other ones. But I can't use this one unless I go and get the vehicle's meta for that specific replacement car out of GTA. Otherwise, your seating positions are going to be weird if you just try to use one that's already there. So let's go to the second one. I have a Ford Focus. All right, so in the Focus, here's the other type that you get from GTA 5 mods. You get a DLC RPF. Now, this is an encrypted file. So in this encrypted file, the only way to open it is with Open4. So if I go here, cars, the Focus, and it's not seeing it. Why is that? DLC RPF. Good. Might have to close the folder and reopen it. All right. Because it has to like run an encryption thing when you open 4. Let's see. Cars, Focus, and there's the DLC RPF. All right. Saying that if I have edit mode, then anything I write is permanent. So in the DLC pack, you have a whole bunch of stuff. This is straight out of GTA stuff here, by the way. So if I go into data, I have my car calls, my car variations, my DLC, everything that I need for this vehicle. I'll put that right here, just copy it over, and then the models are going to be under X64 in vehicles. So now we have everything that we need to build this car for 5M in one convenient location, but we needed Open4 to do it. So let's look at the model here real quick. Just make sure it's in one piece. The wheels aren't doing anything weird. So this is a Ford Focus. I don't know why the windows are white, by the way. I think they're tinted in game. But if you spawn this and it has white windows, well, then the model's probably not going to work out for you. It could also take textures from the texture file, which is this YTD. So we'll look through here. These are all the different textures. Damaged. That's like your dirt and scratches and stuff. Edition 1. That could possibly be a livery. Liveries are they stick out sometimes, like by name. Just I get used to seeing certain ones, so you'll see what looks like. And then of course you need a template to change the livery. Sometimes they put a template in this. That's what I like to do, the YTD. Actually, if I am using a vehicle, a lot of times I'll just import the template into it, so it's always there. But trying to find the right template, because even though it's the same model vehicle, let's say you got a CVPI, there's about 30 different templates for CVPIs. And they're all like, I'm going to use this template, and then you put the logos on it. Now the like everything's not in the right place because the template isn't right. Like they got the trunk in a different place and all that. So I don't see anything in here that looks, yeah, so there's your lights for different LODs for level of detail, how far away you are. The leather for the interior and stuff. Okay, so there's nothing really in here that I can see that sticks out. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this. Now, this is a Focus 2003. And if I want to build this one here with my my little template that I made, RPF. You don't need the DLC text.meta anymore, by the way. That's if you're doing it in the actual game. All right, so let's go ahead and cut this. Go here to my car namer pack. And in the stream folder, we're going to put the models. But then we're also going to take out these meta files. We have to go in the data folder. Now, I'm just going to overwrite what's already here for now. Normally, what I would do would be copy the information into them. But I want to see what's in there now. And again, however you want to do it, it doesn't matter. I just give these as reference. I did include a DLC meta, but you don't, because again, this can be either used single player or in 5M, but we're doing it in 5M here. I also have a vehicle names.lua. I'll explain that in a minute as well. Yep. So in the vehicles meta folder here we have, so this is untouched by me right now. I got this off GTA yesterday, GTA 5 mods, and here it is. So the things I look for is the model name has to match what your stream is. So the YFT is the 3D model. That has to be the model name. The texture name is the YTD right underneath it. And of course, the high resolution one, the up close, has to be the same as the model name. So if you were to change anything here, make sure it reflects here. Your handling ID, that is going to go right back here to your handling meta. So whatever you have here in your handling name, right here in the handling ID, it needs to be the same. So let's say you're doing police cars, and this is one thing that we're trying to do in SRP as well, just to minimize how many different files we have. If we have a charger, a police charger, doesn't really matter if it's an 05, if it's a 15, if it's a 2025. If they should all handle pretty much the same, so we make one thing, we'll call it something like police charger, and then we can point every single charger that's police, the police charger. If you have an SUV, now you can use the in-game, the actual default ones like we do all the time, like Blista. That's an actual vehicle in game. It's a two-door sedan. You could point it to those as well, or you can go to, just Google a Focus handling line for GTA, and you should get all the information for the handling line. Go over handling lines in a second. The vehicle make name, that's when you spawn it. It'll tell you it's a Dinka Dinka Blista when you spawn it, if that's what you want to say. If I want to say the game name, I can either do capital F Focus, or I can just do Focus 2003. I'm going to show you why I'm doing it this way. And if I want to do Ford, I just have to tell the GTA 5M what that means, and we'll cover that in a second. You ever get this car would currently not have any audio the way that it sits now. So if we spawn this in the server, it would not have any audio because there is no audio hash name for Focus 2003 in the actual game. But there is one called Blista. So we'll make this Ford Focus sound like that. That's how you do that. You can make it sound like, if I wanted to put in the semi-truck, I would just need to look up what model the semi-truck is, and I can make this sound like a semi-truck. All right, and then you don't have to worry about any of this default POV camera. This is how people set in the car, like how high and low and all. You don't have to worry about any of that. Just make sure it's there. Your LOD distances, that does need to be adjusted, because if you see a car driving down the street with no wheels, that's because these are off. 1530, this is based on the default model. And I think since it's a custom model, we want it to be seen a little bit further away. And I have the ones that I was working on here yesterday for SRP. So here's all the packages of cars I have. And inside of, like, for example, Civ cars, these are all the cars that I have just in this package. And I've combined everything. Plus it has mods. I don't know if we're going to use them yet. Then I have all these, all these different vehicles in each one of these folders. And I'm going to show you how I make sure all these spawn in. And this is all the single ones that were here before. There's 200 and some files here. We'll see exactly how many files. So it's about 229 files. And then you see some of them have the plus high, some have the underscore high. So as a general thing, you divide this by 3, and that gives you roughly how many cars that is. So 229 divided by 3 is how many cars are in this package alone. I'm not going to do the count. I have some stringer cars that I'm working on. And this is just the civilian vehicles. This is not tow truck service, anything like that. It's not Leo. It's not Fire. It's only Civ. In the data file, the one that I was working on yesterday, the vehicle's meta, this is how I do it. I take it where I name it, I comment out under item what it is so that I can compress it and I can go down and easily find something if I need to fix it or change it. You have to make sure that you have all this XML stuff is correct, though, or the game will crash when you go to spawn it. And then, of course, you have your texture relationships down here. If that vehicle had one, put it in. Otherwise, it may not spawn something correctly, like interiors and so forth. But, for example, the only reason I open this file is so I can get the custom LODs that I put in. I'll close that vehicle's meta. We're back to the one we have. And I try to keep everything nice and clean because often we are working in this with, as you saw, a whole bunch of other vehicles. So I keep them all lined up and everything. A lot of times right here, you'll have the drivers and it'll have many lines underneath it. That is for AI to spawn. The AI that you don't need AI in 5M. They won't drive any of these vehicles because they're not being spawned in the world. So you just put a space forward slash, you close it out basically, and that's how you do it. If you need trailers on your vehicles, that's where you put in the actual model of trailers that this vehicle will cover. It has flags. All the flags, you can look that up online if you need to have specific flags. But you don't want like flag emergency on a Civ car here because then it'll have sirens. You don't want that. You want only back plates. That's how you do that. This is your front and back plates this car will spawn with. So in your class. So that tells it what class of vehicle it is. So you can spawn it in like V menu if you wanted to, if we had it published in there. And then what type of interior dashboard you have. That's what all that stuff is. So that you just copy from the original or what the modeler provides you with. So I have to go through each one of these lines to add all this, information to make things easier. So this is a Focus 2003. And then when I minimize it, I can easily see that. Now, if I want to add more, which we're going to do in a second, we'll do another one right underneath it. But now I know that this is the Focus. So when I'm trying to search for it, I can just minimize it. Save my work here. So that is only the vehicle's meta for one vehicle. Now we need the car variations for this one vehicle, this Focus. I'm going to do the same thing right here. Focus 2003. And again, the reason I'm doing these comments up here is because I want to be able to minimize this here because we're going to have a whole bunch of cars in the pack. I'm not going to do them all for this tutorial, but we're going to put in 2 or 3 just to show you how it should look when it's done. So in the right here in this Focus, this is going to spawn as whatever color. I think I want to say that this is 0 is metallic black, and then the rims are, going to be that default. So this says basically black, all black, or nothing. This second one spawns as graphite black here, but we want it to spawn as red. We'll change it to 27. 27. 4 is the pearlescent, so that's a metallic silver. If we don't want it to spawn as that, we'll do that. So now the second livery is going to spawn as a color, but there's no texture. There's not going to be any like actual graphical livery with it because all these are labeled false. So there's nothing that's going to pull out of that YFT. It's only going to change the colors. And so that's how the color changes happen with all these liveries. It has lots of liveries. And then here's the plate probabilities. So if we want it just to spawn with the standard white that says San Andreas, we can put 100% there. Or we can put 80%, 10%, 0%, 0%. So this would then become 90%. So now I either have the standard white or the white plate 2, which is, I think it's like the handwritten one. I don't remember. So this has a chance of spawning either plate. 90% chance will be standard white. 10% it'll be white plate 2, but 0 chance of blue, 0 chance of yellow. The light settings is 30, and it must have its own car coals, and we'll take a look at that in a second. It does. So, well, this is the mod kit. So that's if you want to change in the mod store. This becomes confusing. So mods are a pain in the butt, and it also has a lot of of the horns that, like, it doesn't need any of these horns. It's calling for 30 on the lighting, which I'd have to look that up. I'll see if it works like it is, but I mean, it's just a car. It doesn't have extra lights, just the front lights and stuff. So we'll leave it alone. But the 956 here is the value for the mod kit that it's going to use, and that would be right here. It's saying if you go to the mod shop, I want to be able to spawn different than what San Andreas Customs or whatever it is called has to offer, custom parts. And then so we have to stream these as well, but we have to go pull them out of the package there in order to stream them. And these are things that you can stream, different engine types and so forth, gearboxes, musical horns that are already part of GTA. So that's what all that means. So we basically can just change that to standard if we want it to be. And I don't have that code in front of me. I have to pull it out a different one. Not really worried about it because it won't, if it doesn't see it, it won't do it anyways. The handling line, this is how heavy the vehicle is. I'm not going to get too heavy in handling lines. If you want to know more, you can Google handling lines and how to change them. You have things like your like braking, your multiplier for inertia. If you want it higher or lower, that's going to be, your suspension values. These are, it doesn't take a lot to change, by the way. So if you big number changes a lot of things. You have a vehicle that rolls over, that's going to be what you like your height, your center of gravity settings, and so forth. Your brake force is not only how much braking the vehicle will have in relation to the weight, by the way, but also how sticky it is to the ground. So if you need a car to go faster, which, by the way, we're not doing cars that go like 280 miles an hour, okay? If your car needs to be within a standard realistic range, most cars do about 110. If your brake force is too high, the car will never really get going because it's sticking to the ground too much. You have your velocity level. That's technically your max speed, but it has all these other variables that it calculates to get to that. This is just a multiplier. It's not going to go 190 miles an hour. I assume, just looking at some of these values here, this car probably does about 115. So if you want to learn more about handling lines, go look it up. You can see what things have changed. It tells you how big your gas tank is, and if you get shot up, how much damage it can take and all that. So this is where that information resides. Covered car coils, handling lines, car variations, vehicles meta. Those are all the things that you have to modify to be able to make this car spawn. Now, the last thing that I have in my little car package is the vehicle names.lua. And this is basically, we have a text entry here that if we spawn it, we want it to display in the game. This I'm having issues with this, by the way. And there's another way that I'm going to show you here in a second. Let me text here. If I'll bring up my other one for an example, but I'm going to show you how to generate that as well. So under data, my vehicle names.lua, what I have here, and this is just for the one package of vehicles for all these packages is going to call this. And so what I did is I have add text entry by hash. I have the hash, which I'm going to show you again in a second. And these are the makers. So where we said Ford, this is the hash for Ford. And then I have like the name of the actual model, Model A, and this one. These aren't reflective of this one, by the way. This is the one that I made, and then I just used it as a template. So I have to adjust all this. But yeah, New York or Continental. So there's the hash for it. And then the way we did this one, we're going to we said we're going to call this one, if we look at the vehicle's meta, so this is going to be called as a Ford Focus 2003, but all lowercase and all wrong. But we don't want the game name to actually display Focus 2003. I did that to keep things simple here. However, in the again, I'll update the way that I have it in that file that I sent you. I'll send an updated one. But I have this. So this one is text, add text entry by hash. This one is add text entry, simpler. So if I were to do, actually, this isn't the same file, but if I wanted to, for example, caps lock, okay, add text, and usually I just copy and paste, %, quotes, comma, space, quotes, close. So if I wanted to put in this one, oh, that's not the right one. So the name here would be Focus 2003. Thought I'd already copied it. But then the name that I actually want it to say in game, remember, Ford's already going to be there. So I can just call it a Focus. So by doing it this way, when this file gets read, it says, hey, if you either see a hash name Ford, that we know the make, but also I don't have a hash for this right now. I have its Focus. If you spawn Focus 2003, it's just going to say Focus. But if you wanted to generate this, go back here to Open 4, go to Tools, Hash Generator, and you type in Focus. Generate. We need the hex though, so you change it to hex. So if it says, if you spawn this, it would be the name. In vehicles meta, our game name is not Focus though. It's Focus 2003. So we changed the hash here to what is the game name. And then in vehicle names, if we did it where by hash, let's spell it right. So in this one, that would be the hash, and then we'd simply call it Focus. So even though the game name is Focus 2003, that hash is what it's going to read and says, oh, don't call it Focus 2003. You see this hash, just call it a Focus. So then in game, we would see Ford Focus. And that's as easy as that. All right. That's how to generate the vehicle names Lua. I don't need to save that. So we've now made vehicles meta, car variations, handling, car calls, and vehicle names Lua. That would be in the data folder here. If you had other modifications, there's a car, I don't remember what it's called because I don't usually do those. The parts don't always line up and stuff. So you have to have a vehicles meta and you have to have a car variations. You do not need a car calls. You do not need a handling. You just have to point it in the vehicle meta to a default car for the handling line. Otherwise, it doesn't know how to work. So the only two you must have are the vehicle and the car variations. Now in the stream folder, that's again, the one vehicle that we have in there. The FX manifest on the newer one is where I'm going to show you next how I'm doing it now. So this is the older way. Basically, the way that this works is it's going to say, it's telling GTA, your client, via the server, hey, if the handling file is right here, all these files are right here. It's the layouts file, by the way, is the one I don't care about. And then, so it says, hey, this is what this is, and this is where to find it. And then the client script is at vehicle names Lua. So that's located in the data file. If I wanted this pack, I would then call, right, like dev test. And so then when I put in the resource Lua, I'd actually call dev test to start it up. And then everything else lines up in here. So that's that is basically how to take cars from the internet and make them into a single one. If I were to do the next one and merge them into the same pack, which is what we want instead of individual ones, let's go back to the cars. So we have the Focus, we have the Camaro. Let's do a Mercedes. Let's see what's in it first. So this is add-on replace. So there's your. It's called a tailgater. Add-on is this one, and okay, so we'll just do that. So we'll take this Mercedes here. Again, we have to close the archive or close the folder and reopen it because it has the RPF, so it's an encrypted file. And we'll just open the same one, no big deal. We have the Mercedes add-on. So in here, again, the same thing is let's go inside of it. Go here because data, we need all these. 64 vehicles RPF. Race interior, that's an extra one, by the way, but we'll take those anyways. We don't have to come back to it. The vehicle mods, these are all the mods that you would get from the mod shop, but again, you have to point everything to the right place. Kind of a pain. If you have audio, there's the sounds of it, so it's much more difficult to add those things into 5M than it is your single player, because you add it as another DLC, if you will, your own DLC. So, but we're going to combine now the vehicles here. Don't need that. I don't need that. Actually, I gotta only take the model first. So Control X, cars, dev test, stream. Now we're gonna have two vehicles in here: the Benz 55 and the Focus 2003. You can rename those again. You just have to put it in the same vehicles meta and so forth. We go back. Now we're gonna go cars. Open this in a new window here. Dev test, data, vehicles meta. Most important. You minimize that. Now we have room for the next one. Just gotta be careful in here that you don't not have it all closed out and stuff. So if I go back, add on, Benz. So vehicles meta. So now we have to change the look at 1,000. That will kill the server right there. That's okay. We'll copy it over and then we'll make manipulations to this. So I go from item. I didn't see. I almost got myself. From item, close item. Copy that. Paste that there. Again, I'm going to call this C. Now we know what that one is. Vehicle name Mercedes, that's fine. The audio hash. We're not using that one. We have to find a car we want this to sound like that's already in game because we're not importing the audio because it's much more difficult to stream and everybody doesn't need it. It's just for special. I don't even know if it works, by the way, on 5M efficiently. So GTA 5 Mercedes. Whatever it sounds like. Benefactor. So that's fine. We can use that sound. And the handling line if we wanted to as well. That way we don't have to, I mean, we can do the handling line that came with it, but we wanted to do the default one, we can do that. And now this Mercedes will have that, but we already have one, so why not use that? It might need some, work on it. And then I'm going to copy the LODs that I already have here because these ones are supposed to be better. Now the LODs match what's there. Again, if you see it without vehicles or without wheels from far away, you need to adjust it. And then we have some texture relationships here. We probably don't need the race interior unless we're streaming it. So we'll copy these, put them down here at the bottom. Okay. Item. Okay, so I don't need to comment out any of these because, I don't really care if it has a texture relationship too much. This is where all the information is. There's no AI drivers in here. There's no rewards. Those are the things you need to take out. It doesn't carry a trailer, so it shouldn't have any trailer stuff in there. So now this car is done in Vehicles Meta. We'll save that. Vehicle Meta is done. Now we need to go back here to car variations. And then we'll open this car variations. That's the model name, standard white 100%, has its own mod kit. Don't really care about that. And BENSE 55. This is just a, basically I'm putting in a comment just so I know what it is. We'll see, back to the car variations. That's all in there. Boom. So that one's done. Save that. Don't need that one anymore. And don't need the original one anymore. So I still have the originals untouched in case I need to refer back to them. But this one is in my car package under dev test data here. Now, we also have the handling line if we wanted to use that one. But we can do that. Item to item. Then we'll go to the dev test handling. There's the focus. Need to go under here. And I can also, because it's starting to get larger here. So we would say this is the focus. 3. And this is the Benz 55. And this is just for my information. Now the handling line's in there. That's done. All right. Lastly, our variations done. Vehicles meta handling. If we had car coals for this one, that's for the mod kit stuff. Not really worried about it. That's also mod kit. The grills and the chassis and the lights. So there's really nothing in here that we have to have for lighting. It's all items, horns. A lot of times these horns are, the same in many of them because they just take the default ones. And you would do that. So here's lights actually. So this is light ID value 12. And in the car variations, the light is 45. So all this isn't even for this vehicle. This is something else. So this is what cop cars and fire engine ambulance lights look like. Tells you for each individual light how it flashes, where it flashes, the color of the corona, and when to turn on, when to turn off, and if it's a flashing or an LED. That's for every single light bulb. There's up to 24 light bulbs per model. Pain in the butt to deal with. All right. So car coals we don't need. Car variations, vehicles meta, and handling line are in there. Now we have 2 cars that are going to spawn right here in this one. Those 2. Those would be the models that you would spawn in game. Done. We have 2 cars in there. They're done. And then you would test them on your home server to make sure that everything's there. Everything looks right. It spawns. You can get in and out of it. The doors don't fall off when they shouldn't. You need to do all that on your own thing before you submit that. So we're not wasting time. that concludes the orientation on how to do modeling or how to add cars to 5M. Now I'm going to show you quickly how I add the package that you send to me with multiple cars in it, not one at a time. So if you, let's say you have 5 cars you want to send, okay, 5 cars is okay. Put them in a package like that, send them. We'll add them to the dev server, beta server, whichever one we're using at the time. We can test them out. They work good. We'll put them in production. Let's say that you want to add 5 more cars in the next 2 months or whatever. So add 5 cars to it and then resend the entire package zipped up with all your changes already added to it. So you have the original ones and then the new ones in the same package. And then, put your name as the package name, for example. Then we'll overwrite the other one, test those, and if they all work, then we'll put it in the new one as long as there's no conflicts with other vehicles. Vehicles are very complicated in the fact that they interact with each other, and the coding of 5M often, because they change the client so often that it breaks everything all the time. If you wanted to add for a Camaro, for example, this one I didn't show you, but it has already it has a single player and a 5M folder in it. It also has a template. So that's how you would do the livery on that one if you wanted a livery, special stickers or whatever. So the 5M one, it already has the package pre-built. It has a stream folder and then the data folder. But again, I need it like the one that I'm sending you, so it has the data and the stream. And I'll show you why that has to be that way in a second. But then you'd put all these in a data folder, and the way that I showed you already is how you'd do it. So, but this package is pretty much done already. You just have to go through and check it. Make sure that all this stuff's right. It has a gauntlet thing. The LODs are wrong. We need that fixed. Everything else is looking good. Muscle card, by the way, if you use a muscle card as a class, those are the ones when you do a wheelie, the whole front end stands up. So you want to change it if you can to VC Sport, vehicle class Sport. That way, though, it doesn't always do the wheelie and it looks weird. So you have to modify and change anything that needs to be changed in here. That one actually looks pretty good, doesn't except for the LODs. You can leave it that way, spawn it, and see if you can't see the wheels, walk away from it. If the wheels disappear, that needs to be changed. Now then, if you guys have any questions, by the way, jump in the beta chat, and I'll be there in a second to unmute myself so we can hear your questions if you have any. The last thing I'm going to do, again, I started to show you how I have been doing it for these massive packages. So we're going to go to this is the live folder that I'm working on right now. I probably have 4 or 5 hours into it already, just setting it up to add more. So like vehicle civilian, that's the one I'm working on now. We would add your packages. I'd have to split it up between the stream folder. Notice I have the same cars in here. Well, I mean, I have the cars in the stream folder, but I have folders there so I can find them easier. Because if I put them all in one, we'd have, 500-600 vehicles in stream, and then trying to find the name of what model it is can get quite crazy. So if I have them in a folder, you say, hey, I sent you a package of these vehicles and they're in the stringer. Well, okay, we'll look in stringer. Oh, okay, so it's because 5M the FX server doesn't care about the folder names. So, but it does help. But I will actually take these out of folders in the stringer one and just make them individual, because I know that they're stringer cars and I'm not too worried about it. So the one I was working on was this one, and I got this. No, is this one I got done yesterday. So all the vehicles in here are going to be streamed as long as here has the right information to stream it. So I went through every one of these yesterday and put these in there. And right now they're not, I think because I was in a hurry to get it done. But this is where this comes in handy, just like I'm doing now. So that we can, because if we take it out of here, it won't spawn anymore. So I don't actually have to go through and worry about deleting everything that we don't want to spawn. If I just take it out of here, I can comment out the entire item. And I'll show you that in a second. So if we're having a problem with this Tesla, by the way, I can go here. It's not going to work because of this other one. But I can just delete the entire item if I want, and it won't spawn anymore. Or I can comment it out to see what's wrong with it and then send it back. So that's why I like that. Keeps it nice and clean. So I've already went through all these, but the special thing that the way that I'm doing this, you see I have an FX manifest now instead of the __ resource.lua. An FX manifest. And this is specifically for this civilian vehicles folder. The way that I'm doing it, it doesn't care about the stream folder. It only cares about how it's going to call the vehicles. So I have the vehicle names.lua right here that I've already showed you. That's being called through this FX manifest down here in the very bottom. The rest of them, I'm calling everything by packages. So the civ cars, here's the files that it's going to look under data, which is the folder everything's in, civ cars and vehicles meta. Classic cars, classics 2, these are just comments, but you can see the folder name right here. And then I have actually that as like a template. And they're in alphabetical order for me. So that way, if I need to look at a package of cars, or if you give me one, I could put in your name, 23 or 023, or send me a package of vehicles. I could just put in a folder called 023 and both the data and the stream. And then I would simply add it here without affecting anything else. And if there's a problem, I can just simply comment it out and it won't spawn anymore, that entire package, until we figure it out. So that's done through this FX manifest, which I'm going to update that resource Lua to the FX manifest for those individual folders, by the way.